Hi everybody and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. I hope that you'll consider subscribing and hitting that little bell so you get notified when I upload new videos. If you are returning, thank you so much for being here. You all mean the world to me, as you know, so thank you so much for the continued support. Be sure to give me a big thumbs up so that it helps YouTube to recognize me and I can get this content out to more people who might appreciate it. Today we are working on a hand lettering tutorial. This is something that a number of you requested. I had asked if that might be of interest and a lot of you said yes please, so that is what we're doing today. I will say I am not a hand lettering expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm completely self-taught. I tend to learn by mimicking what other people are doing. So I've watched other people do it and I have practiced, and it started out with really doodling. If you can doodle, if you can draw a little bit, you can hand letter. And I will say it's funny because I get a lot of comments when I do little hand lettering pieces of my project. People will comment that I have really nice handwriting. I don't have nice handwriting, you guys. As I mentioned in a recent video, think of it as drawing. I don't have nice handwriting at all. I will actually show you. How are you? I am fine. Thank you. And I even just spelled thank you wrong. Thank you should be 2 words. But as you can see, I do not have great handwriting at all. But if you use your imagination and you think of it as drawing, you can suddenly slow it down a little bit, make it a little bit neater, and you can also kind of add other things to it, right? And all of a sudden, it becomes hand lettering that you might be proud to share on a pretty craft project, right? And so it's really about slowing down, thinking of it as drawing. A lot of the times when I'm doing hand lettering, I'm making the words a little bit larger than I normally would when I'm writing. So that really does create a cause to slow down, make my lines a little bit smoother, make them a little bit straighter. And depending on what font I'm using, I might embellish it more or less. So with that said, now I've got this handwriting here, right, that I've already slowed down a little bit. The first thing that I started playing with was faux calligraphy, and that's something that I tend to fall back on a lot when I'm doing my hand lettering in my projects. And with faux calligraphy, essentially you are going to write your word, but then you're going to go back and you're going to fill in the downstrokes. So anywhere you would go down with your pen, right? So when you're writing this letter H, it's coming up and then down, right? So this is the part that I'm going to be filling in right here. Down, right? And then it's going to be down again. So this one I'm going to fill in. And then I would be up and then I'd be down, right? So every place that you have a downstroke when you're writing, and that's where you're going to make it a little bit fatter. And I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see all that well without them. All right, so downstrokes, right? And then leaving the upstrokes skinny. And when I first started hand lettering, I practiced with a regular ballpoint pen. That's all I used. And I'll also use a Sharpie a lot of the time. I use paint markers when I am doing lettering that's a little bit wider that the paint marker will allow me to work with. You can use a paintbrush if you choose to. For me personally, I don't have a steady enough hand to be successful with a paintbrush. I've tried those fancy hand lettering markers that they almost look like they have a brush tip. They're really cool and they're like flexible. I haven't figured out how to master that yet. I think my hand is just too heavy. You have to have a really light hand, I believe, for that. You know, a goal for me to work on perhaps. But in the meantime, you know, I'm gonna just go ahead and make all of my downstrokes, right? And I also have to sometimes go back over it to remind myself where those downstrokes are. So just keep that in mind. Be kind to yourself when you're doing this. And find your downstrokes, and those are the areas that you're going to make a little bit thicker, right? Just like that. So you can see it's already becoming a little bit prettier, right? Now, if I were to be doing something a little bit larger, again, now keep in mind when I am crafting and I use a hand lettering technique on one of my projects, when you all are seeing those videos, I speed it up by about 3 times. I'm doing this all in real time so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But when you watch my regular crafting videos, I'm speeding that up about 3 times. So even when it looks like I'm going slow with something, keep in mind that's already 3 times faster than I was actually going. All right, so don't be afraid to take your time. Think of it as drawing and be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself, okay? I did slow it down recently in that video where I asked if you wanted the hand lettering tutorial so you could see what I was doing, but let's try this. So, and I'm thinking about how I want my letters to look. And frequently I will find something that I want to mimic, like I mentioned before. And don't worry if this is not perfect when you first write it out, because we can fix it. And I'm already running out of space here. I didn't judge properly on my spacing, so I'm going to improvise a little here. And you can embellish things as little or as much as you'd like. You don't have to embellish them, but you certainly can. So now I have my welcome, and this is just, I don't know, this is similar, I suppose, to my handwriting, but I took my time. I was careful with it. I wanted to make sure my lines were smooth. And now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to do that faux calligraphy. And you can see I'm just going to widen out my downstrokes. And if you mess it up a little bit, don't worry about it, because you can always go back and fill it in more. But you're just going to be patient with yourself. And right now I'm not bothering to fill it in just yet. I'm showing you what I'm doing. Now you can see here, this little bump is where I should have connected my letter back again, and I messed that up, right? So instead of coming on the outside to fill this in, I'm going to come on the inside so I can catch that, right? And then the problem's going to be solved, because this is all going to get filled in, and no one will ever be the wiser that I messed that part up. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'm just going to keep making my downstrokes. See there? This is downstroke here. I'm just going to keep making those my wide places. And if you want to, if you feel a little bit hesitant with your hand lettering and you are concerned that if you're not super confident, let's put it that way, you can always do this with pencil and then go back in and trace it. And I do that sometimes as well. If I have a project that is really far down a path and I don't want to have to repaint it if I mess up or whatever else, I will use a pencil and I will pencil in my lines, and then I'll go back and I will paint over it with my paint marker, right? I'll draw over it. So don't hesitate to use pencil if that makes you feel more confident. Sometimes I'll just go for it and I'll go ahead and do my lettering with whatever the permanent marker or paint pen or whatever it is I'm using. Sometimes I'll go for it. Other times I'll use pencil and then I'll go back over it. So it's really trying to figure out where my downstroke starts here. So I'm coming up around, and it starts probably around there. And you can make these as wide or as narrow as you want. I'm gonna do it like that. And I'm not worried about that because I'm gonna fill it in, right? So as I fill this in, and you can also get fancy with stuff too, right? So maybe you kind of like it rough like that, and you might want to leave it like that. But did you see how I went outside the line a little bit? And so I just went ahead and fixed that. Now you could fill that in solid, or maybe you like the way that looks. That's the great thing about hand lettering. You can create your own fonts. You can create your own embellishments to really make it your own. That's where your creativity comes in. Your imagination can take root and really create something special that you are happy with and enjoy. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to fill this in a little bit so you can see how it might look. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit so you don't have to watch me fill all of this in real time, but I think you've kind of gotten the message as to what it is that I do with this. And then I'm going to show you a different type of font. There. So this is my very first practice, right? I typically would not use a ballpoint pen for a craft project. This is how I started out teaching myself how to do this, right? I would just use a regular ballpoint pen, because a lot of the time I was practicing while I was waiting for a doctor's appointment, waiting who knows where. You know, if I had some downtime and I had a pen and a piece of paper, I would sit and I would doodle and I would work on figuring out how to hand letter. So this is one style, if you will, one type of font. Something else that is really popular is the Ray Dunn font, right? And it's just simple straight lines, and you're just going to take your time, right? If you can draw a straight line, you can do this. Just taking your time. Find an example, a sample, if that helps you. I'm just doing this off of memory, so forgive me if this isn't exactly what her font looks like. But a lot of it for me is mimicking. I see something and I look at the lines, I look at the spacing, and I try to copy it, right? That's all that I do. Now, if you really want to learn more about the lettering, let me grab something real quick. So if you really want to learn more about hand lettering and you want explicit instruction, this is a book that I had picked up. I think I got it at Barnes & Noble a long time ago. It might be available on Amazon. I'm not sure. If I can find it, I will certainly link it for you in my Amazon store, and the link for that is in my description box. But it has a lot of different explanations on lettering basics and how you create your letters, and then it'll go step by step, if I can talk properly. So fancy script, it's got different types of fonts in here, simple serif. It walks you through how to actually create the letters. And not only that, but then it also has practice pages. Now you can see I have not written in this because I'm just me, and I prefer to do it on practice paper so that I don't mess up my book. Don't know why, but you can see they even have lined pages in here. So if you pick up something like this, that is something that you might find helpful. All right. Now, if I were to do a different kind of font, again, you can make up your own fonts. You can make them whimsical. You can make them very basic. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. You can provide little flourishes with them if you want. So I'm going to see if I can do something else here. And at the moment, I'm just trying to remember how I want to draw my F. So, and again, now I'm using just a regular marker. This is from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to do Flourish. And it's okay to pick up lift your hand in the middle of letters and strokes, whatever is going to help you to achieve the look that you're going for, right? Now with this, and it's funny how this is writing on the paper itself, it's turning a little bit of an orange, but on painted surfaces, it really is more of this metallic rose gold color. But now this F to my eye is not real pretty, but I can fancy it up and make it more attractive, right? So because if I'm going to flourish, perhaps I'm going to maybe my marker just needs to get warmed up because now it's looking more like the rose gold that I would have expected. There we go. Go over that. And see there, it's just about making the lines the way you want them to appear. And notice I had gone relatively quickly when I wrote out my first word, but I'm just slowing it down now, and I'm creating excuse me, lines for myself, and then I'm trying to stay within the lines. And you could use multiple colors for this too. I'm just making this a little bit wider because I want it wider. And I'm going to put a little embellishment on this. Just a tad bit. Right? So if I wanted to, and I don't know about my choice of colors right now, but this is where your imagination comes in, right? and you can make your letters whatever you want them to be. So you can see the difference here. Once I've gotten more comfortable and I've started using actual crafting tools, so to speak, rather than a ballpoint pen, now I do like the way this looks. If I were doing a handmade card or something, perhaps I would do something like that. But you can see once you start using the markers that it becomes a much more solid design, so to speak. And it's filled in and a little bit more cohesive, is that the word? I don't know. It's just a different style, and it really depends on what you want it to end up looking like. Now, even with the marker, if you really wanted to, you could start making other types of, I don't know, what would you call it? You can get creative, because again, that's the whole point in crafting and hand lettering, and it's all about the creativity, right? So you could certainly have it be like that, and now you've got a different style all over again, right? So down, and then this is going to be my downstroke here. And I could do polka dots if I wanted. I wanted something different. And I could even come in with a different color and make my polka dots. I can fill in some of these stripes if I wanted with a different color. Give it a little bit more interest, right? Now this color isn't a huge contrast, so it doesn't necessarily stand out as much, but you get the idea, right? It can be whatever you choose to make it. Now when you start getting into wanting to make your fonts with the different insides, you just want to be a little bit more mindful when you're drawing your letters so that you're leaving yourself with space to do that. Because if you start needing to correct things, you're going to lose the opportunity to be able to do something like that. But it's absolutely possible to do it. And perhaps if that's your goal, that's one reason why you might want to pencil it first. If you're afraid that you won't be able to get it looking the way that you want it, use that pencil and then go back in and do it the way you want it. But it's all about creativity. And you have options. And you don't even have to do polka dots and stripes. Once you have your outline, you could certainly color it in with a different color, right? If you're going to be coloring it in with a different color, then I would highly encourage using the pencil, because you're not going to want to have your cross lines, so to speak, where you would be filling that in with a different color. So I would use the pencil and then go back and color it in, and then I would outline it. Now sometimes what I'll do is I will grab something that I really like and I will try to mimic it. And I'll show you what I mean. So for example, here is a Dollar Tree calendar that I had picked up, and a lot of the designs on the Dollar Tree calendars have been really popular. So I might pick one that I think is really pretty. I happen to like this one a lot, and I can certainly set it aside and try to mimic it, right? Now, again, you might want to use a pencil first. I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball it a little bit here and see if I can get the basic shape of my container. This is obviously very rough. If I were crafting this and not just doing this for demonstration purposes, I probably would be using a pencil. So just get the shoulders of my jar, trying to figure out how I can make sure I stay on camera here. So I actually had videotaped this a while back, and when Kim actually went to help me with the editing, we discovered that a lot of what I was doing for the close-up was not in frame. So sorry about that. So trying to stay in frame here for this new iteration. Okay, now I've got the Merry Christmas here that I'm going to work on trying to recreate. Now, frequently when I'm crafting, you'll see me kind of doing an air draw, so to speak, because I'm trying to figure out exactly where my letters should go. Now, I also sometimes will do it out of order because I'm trying to get my lettering lined up. If I am not doing a script font and I'm doing a Ray Den font, for example, I will also start in the middle with my centered letters so that I can figure out my spacing, essentially. So those are a couple of tricks that I use as well. But because Christmas here is the largest, the longest word, I think, and it's also in the center, I'm going to try to figure out how that will fit here, and I might do that first. So my Christmas is also going to be on a bit of an angle, and you can also draw yourself some pencil lines to create the line that you want to follow, if that helps you. I'm just going to go ahead and figure out how my spacing is going to work here. So I've got to be careful because Christmas here is a pretty long word. And see, I'm not afraid to pick up my pen and check my lettering. This is going to come all the way down. All right, so it's not perfect, but it's, you know, it's passable, and it does. I mean, if I can be so bold, I don't think it looks bad. Now, it's not exact. You know, there are places where I didn't quite get it looking the same way as the example, but that's okay because it's mine, right? And I've created something that I can say I did by hand. Now, I'm going to do my Mary, and I'm going to look at where my letters are lined up here. So I can see that the M was starting over the mid hump of the C there, and my Y ends above the A. You see that right here? So I want to make sure that I am staying within those parameters here. And I'm going to be doing Mary. So I can see in my air drawing I was already going a little bit further than I was supposed to. So I'm going to try and keep that in mind here when I do this. And the way that they did this, they actually, it's almost like they made a mistake and they went right to the R, the way that it's written, at least. It's not too bad, huh? So the E is going to be coming like that, kind of. Okay, so I've got my Mary, got my little neck up here, right? I've got my berries. Now obviously you could be using different colors here. This is purely for demonstration purposes, but you can see how you can do this, right? This is not all that difficult. And if it doesn't look exactly the same, that's okay. It's really okay, you know? Make it yours. This is another Dollar Tree marker. I think it's some sort of a metallic or glittery marker. Okay, and so I've got my y'all that I'm going to bring in here now. And my Y was starting between the H and the R, and it's wrapping up under the A. So it's going to be kind of like this. All right. And it connects the Y with the A, so I'm going to do that. And the way they're doing this, it's kind of like that, huh? There we are. So it's not perfect, but it's something. And then I'm going to go back and fill some of this in the way that they did. Now, a lot of the times I tend to gravitate towards these fancy fonts. I don't know why. I guess I just like to be fancy. But you can do this with any kind of font that you're interested in replicating, right? And I'm just going to go in and widen up the areas that need the widening per my design, right? And you can see with the black Sharpie how it just, and I do frequently use black Sharpie. If I have lettering I'm doing that's black, sometimes I'll use my paint markers, but I have found that the black Sharpie actually works really well. So just coming through here and getting all of my lettering the way that I want it. And as I always say, do what makes your heart happy. Be patient with yourself, and remember that usually when you make a mistake, it ends up being a happy accident, right? You can create something further with it. Don't give up on it, because you can usually save it by doing something else with it. And sometimes it ends up being even better than what you had planned to do in the first place. So don't give up on yourself too easily. Just be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and have fun. Because ultimately we craft because it's enjoyable, right? We don't want to be stressing ourselves out with crafting. That's not the point. So we want to just make sure that we enjoy it, have fun, create, use your imagination, take your time. And I'm not a super patient person. I tend to like projects that are quick and easy because I just don't have the attention span for it. And so the hand lettering for me is different because it's something that I find relaxing, and I do take my time with it. Now, if you don't have the patience for it, I hear you. Then you might want to be using a Cricut or stencils or stickers, something else that'll get you the look without having to take the time for it. Because ultimately, especially in the beginning, before you have a lot of practice, it will take you more time. There you are. So there's that. Now, if we were to do one of these others, you can see my Sharpie went through there, so we'll go ahead and, you know, there are a lot of different types of fonts that you can use. And you can come up with something completely different. So see this one? This is kind of fun. Why don't we do this real quick? So I'm going to put that one off camera and I'll show you in a minute because I want to make sure that I can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so this is a brand new purple glitter marker that I got from the Dollar Tree. You can see I haven't started it yet, so I'm just going to speed this up and get it going. All right, so now I have this going. And with these markers, you'll find a lot of the time, especially with paint pens and paint markers, they will need some priming. The tip will be white and you just have to bounce it the way that I was and press it in, and it usually takes about 30 seconds to a minute to get it started. So if I am doing this home font, it's got very straight lines, and I didn't do my spacing very well on my page, but that's okay. Because maybe I'll do something else with it. Right? In the end, it's all about being creative and making things your own. And you don't need to outright copy something completely. You can make adjustments to it and make it your own, and then it becomes an original, right? Take inspiration from some of the things that you see. So for this one, they were only doing the left sides of the letters as far as making them wide. This is a very simple font that they're using. Now my M is a little different. I didn't pay enough attention to the spacing on that, but you know, it's similar, right? And then if we wanted to do the embellishment and then the fancy font underneath, we certainly could, but we can make this whatever we want it to be. So home, I'm not gonna follow the rest of that design. I'm gonna make my own something. And a lot of the times, the fonts get alternated, right? And now, when you're coming back through and emphasizing different areas of your letters, that's where you can also take advantage of the opportunity to reshape them. I don't know if you noticed on my R when I was doing that, I brought this back out a little bit further because I wanted it to have a better shape than what I had originally given it. So take advantage of that opportunity to reshape your letters and give them the shape that you want them to have. All right. Here you go. So that's another option. Just use your creativity, use your imagination, and you can create some really, really pretty projects, cards, crafts, whatever it is that you'd like to do. It's a matter of just taking your time and using your imagination and taking things that you see. If you're at Hobby Lobby, for example, and you take a look at something that they have on display and you're like, oh, I love the way that looks. I would love to recreate something like that. Take a picture of it and take it home and just look at the lines. Think of it as a picture that you're trying to draw and not just letters that you're trying to write, and that should help you out a lot. All right, well, I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought, and I will do my best to continue to provide you with content that you are interested in seeing. And if there's something more that you'd like to see with regard to hand lettering, let me know that too. I will do my best to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way and the way that I think about how I approach the projects. Hopefully that helps. But until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.